Good evening. Well, I am in my kitchen tonight and I'm going to be doing some cooking. So, I love growing tomatoes. Tomatoes you can grow at home are nothing like what you're going to get from the supermarkets. I've got two different varieties here. I've got the red cherry tomatoes and these larger yellow tomatoes. Now, these are both lovely and sweet because they've been properly sun ripened. You can pick those and eat those straight off the plant. They are fantastic. But unfortunately, we've come round to autumn now, and the plants have started dying, so I've had to pick everything I've got. Now there's a few like this that might sit on the windowsill, you might ripen off, but the green ones like this definitely won't ripen off, so you can't eat them as they are. You can, however, make chutney. So, main ingredients for the chutney is tomatoes, apples, onions, and raisins, and obviously vinegar to preserve it. So I have got an old recipe of my mum's. It is in imperial, but I have got the metric conversions as well, which I'll put down in the description. But yeah, let's see what we've got. So let's have a quick rundown through the ingredients, and they are laid out in the order that you'll be using them. So we have got 1 pint of vinegar, we have got 1 pound of soft brown sugar, we have got 4 pounds of green tomatoes, we have got 1 pound of cooking apples, we have got 1.5 pounds of onions, we have got 1/2 pound of sultanas, and we have got some ginger powder and some salt. It says it should make 8 jars of chutney, so I've gone for the very big pot here. So let's take a look at the first instruction on the list. Now, unfortunately, I should have read this earlier, because it says put the vinegar and sugar in a bowl and dissolve, best left overnight. So unfortunately, I am not doing that. I'm going to do it now, but that is the sugar. That is the vinegar, including the lid. Let's fish the lid out in a minute. Okay, that's the sugar dissolving in the vinegar at the back there, minus the lid now. So I'm going to be turning my attention to the rest of the ingredients. So the next 3 instructions are all kind of part of the same one. So it says to take the apples, tomatoes and onions, to wash and chop them roughly, then to mince them and add them all together in the pan with the remaining ingredients there, so all as one. So through the powers of technology, I have got a food processor here with a dicing blade, so I will be cutting the items up and putting them through the food processor and dumping them into the pan. So that is everything there except the vinegar and the sugar. So right, let's get on with that. Of course, these are lovely organic apples from the garden, so you do have to be a little bit careful with it, because the only thing worse than finding a maggot in your apple is finding half a maggot in your apple. So bit like that. There we go. It's noisy, but it works, so into the pan with that. I'm not too worried about getting that clean because I've got the onions and tomatoes to go through there as well. Right, now, again, some of these are homegrown onions. I'd love to say that I grew one like that. Unfortunately, that is store-bought. These ones are the ones that I grew myself. But yeah, so yeah, process those. Come on, only 3 more to go. You can do this. onion don't look great either. Might look mouldy in the middle. And now time for the tomatoes. Okay, that's all the fresh ingredients in now, so next thing is half a pound of sultanas, 1 ounce of salt, and 1 ounce of ground ginger. Now we give it a big stir like it's a witch's cauldron, and we'll start to get some heat underneath it in a second. Right, now that's all mixed, I'm going to bring that up to the boil and then leave it to simmer for about an hour. I won't leave the camera here the entire time because I don't want to damage the camera. So I'll show you what it looks like once I've got it up to the boil. Okay, well it's taken about 15 minutes to get to this point, and I would say that's about as close to a boil as you're going to get from it. So I'm going to turn that down to a simmer now, but you can see it's already starting to change in there. It's got a slightly browner colour as well. So I'm going to keep stirring this occasionally, leave it on the simmer for the next hour, and I shall catch up with you in a bit. I've moved it onto the front ring now, because even on its lowest setting that back ring was a little bit too powerful. But that is what I would call a simmer now, so that's on the front ring at its lowest setting. So I'm going to leave it like this for an hour, just stir it every now and again, just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan. I thought I'd just quickly mention about the ingredients that are in there, and what my understanding of them is. So the apple is in there purely to break down and turn into some sort of mush that sort of suspends the other things around it. The tomatoes and the onions are in there, and that's what gives it its flavour. And then you've got the raisins in there, they're in there to help dry it out. So they're going to plump up and they're going to soak up the juices from the fruit. So yeah, they're just purely there to dry it out and bulk it out, I think. Now the vinegar, that is preserving agent. That is the thing that stops it from all going rotten and makes it so it can sit on your shelf for a year without any problems. So at the moment the vinegar isn't in there because I'm leaving this to boil down. That's why I've got the lid off, because I'm trying to reduce the amount of water that's in here. So yeah, I'm going to leave this to it. Like I say, just stir it every now and again and make sure it's not sticking. And I'll be back to this in an hour. Okay, well it's been simmering away for an hour, and there's a definite change to it now, so it's more of a thick sauce. You can see that's a lot smoother, no lumps in there. So that is exactly what we're looking for. So it's now time to add the vinegar. So obviously we put sugar in that vinegar. Hopefully it's all dissolved, but I'm going to give it a good stir before I pour it into here. Mix that in nicely. There you go, that's a lot darker now. There's a lot more liquid again. So next instruction is to boil it for 15 minutes, so that's back onto the back ring, just to try and reduce that down a little further again. Okay, so that's been boiling for another 15 minutes now. I think that's about as thick as it's going to get. It's 9:30 now and I want to go to bed, so this is as thick as it's going to get for me. Right, so the next thing to do is to put it in jars. Now I've got lots of these clip top jars, which I'm going to be putting some of it in, and then the rest of it's just standard jam jars. Now I've had those in a bowl of very hot water, partially to sterilise them and partially to heat the jars up so they don't crack when you put the chutney in them. So yep, just using a measuring jug to scoop it out of there and pour it into here. There we go. It's always that challenge to get the last little bit out without spilling it. There we go. Right, so that's chutney in the jars. So while they're still hot, I'm going to put the lids on. So that gives it a lovely seal because it will sort of create a vacuum as it cools down. Now my mum insists that you need to put a piece of greaseproof paper over the top to stop it from going mouldy. I've personally never done that and never had a problem, but she always says you need to get the jam pot covers and cover it to stop the bacteria from getting in. So we'll see, but yep, there we go. Right, well I'm going to leave those there to cool down now. As they cool down, they'll go a little bit more solid, so it should be a thicker consistency. Once they're cooled, I'm going to put the date on them, and I'm going to put them at the back of the cupboard and leave them for about, well, 3 months at least, because the longer you leave them, the better the flavour gets on them. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video as something slightly different, and I'll see you later.